experience already being and working in countries like that told me that they pay a premium to import talent. So I know that if I give them the correct offering at the correct price, I'm going to easily get in a sale. And that's how I started my first few.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues, the podcast where we interview business owners on how they built their businesses and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is David Swin, and I'm a business coach and the founder of Purple Circle, where we help business owners achieve their first 6-figure, 7-figure, and 8-figure year, all without sacrificing their quality of life. Before becoming a business coach and before founding Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7- and 8-figure coaching businesses and have been a consultant at several businesses doing over $100 million each, including some that are publicly listed and doing over $1 billion each. In every episode of the podcast, you're going to learn lessons that took our guests years to learn, and you'll be able to learn that in minutes. No matter if you're a new business owner or an established business owner, every episode is going to give you the clues in order to elevate your business.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Justin Calderon, founder of Mint Position, a content marketing agency helping fintech and B2B tech companies build online visibility through his journalistic SEO approach. Before founding Mint Position, Justin spent nearly 2 decades as a journalist with bylines at the BBC, CNN, Newsweek, Foreign Policy, and Sky News, interviewing hundreds of C-suite executives and political leaders around the world. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thanks, Pedro. Thanks for inviting me on.
Awesome. So, Justin, excited that you're here, okay? I got to tell you a little bit about me, which is the fact that I'm kind of a comic book nerd myself, okay? Love the first editions, love the origin story. So before we get into what you do now, Justin, I'm curious how this all actually started, right? So what was going on in your life when being the founder of Mint Position became more than just an idea?
Yeah, I think it obviously stems from my previous life as a journalist. The first chapter of my career was very much based in Southeast and East Asia. How I even got there is a story in itself. I graduated with a journalism degree in 2007. Roll back the clock, and you might remember that date, the financial crisis, the recession, right? So I came out, New York City, not a lot of pickings for a young budding journalist, but a whole lot of the world to see. Went out to teach English in Asia, specifically in South Korea, and then later Taiwan. Planned to stay for 1 or 2 years, was there for 9 to 10. I spent a lot of my time working with a lot of different media agencies, reporting, as you had mentioned at the beginning of the show, right? And reporting and writing for media from China, Global News to France's Le Figaro, Newsweek, etc. And then, what was the big inspiration to the agency was just the manifestation of slowly working up from the writer to the senior editor, and from the senior editor to the editor-in-chief of one of these agencies, because I had switched agencies a lot. I think that's kind of a millennial thing to move around jobs that frequently. But I was a freelancer in between as well. And after making enough suggestions, enough hints to maybe let's introduce this. I want to do this. I think this will be better for the company. Let's build out our LinkedIn page. Let's build out our portfolio on Muckrake or something, right? And getting different feedback. No, Justin, now is not the right time, etc. I think I accumulated enough of that experience to say, you know what? I think I can do this better myself. And that's when the light bulb goes off and says, okay, I've reached the glass ceiling. I understand, I respect the work and the agencies that these other professionals have built. I think I can do something better. And therefore, I went out on my own, and with great, fortune on my part, great serendipitous moment occurred 2 months before the world collapses in March 2020, another fortuitous date. Maybe not for the world, but for me, I decided that I would go out and get some clients of my own. I had 2 clients already in my pocket by the time the Ides of March rolled on us in 2020. And the company I was working with, which was based largely in business travel, business journalist travel, collapsed overnight, and I proceeded to build my agency in my pajamas with two clients and a bit of revenue already coming in.
Interesting. Executive PJs, as it sounds like. That's one
Yeah,
thing. The 2008, you mentioned subprime crisis. Did I got that right?
yeah. The
Yeah.
financial recession. Yeah,
Right. I was part of that. I was working in banking here in Brazil. Like I was taking off. And then that happened. It sounds like getting houses to dogs eventually affects someone's in Brazil. So I'm one of those guys that got fired, laid off because of that. Right. So right there with you. Interesting. So a COVID baby. The thing is that I feel like it's interesting also is that you are like 2 months in, so you got the foundation at least. So that was actually a good thing for you that was going on, right? I mean, whenever we have crisis, it generates opportunities for different types of people,
and I
different
think
environments.
yeah, I think that Inception story, those footnotes, basically give you those bookmarks to two different chapters of my life, both instigated by separate crises.
Interesting. Okay. Now I'm curious about one thing, right? The name. I'm wrapping my head around it. Mint position. Mint position. My brother collected some coins, right? And I know collectors care deeply about the mint position because a rare or misplaced position can drastically change a coin's value, right?
Yeah,
Maybe there's nothing to do with the name you created, but that's something that's stuck in my head. So why the name mint position?
you're actually correct, but I think you're just a little off the mark. It's a play on mint condition. That is what a collector wants. They want a mint condition coin, banknote, trading card, right? So we're looking to do a little bit of the mint condition when we're performing optimization for a client, right? But it's more than the condition, it's positioning, which is a marketing, obviously, uh, measurement, right? So your positioning has to be perfect, like the mint condition, but in the framework, in the point of view of a marketer, that's going to be the mint condition. Of course, mint is uh, is also this symbol with finance, right? Is often used. So something that's minted, like a coin. So you have a bit of our DNA focusing heavily on financial technology and financial service companies imbued into the name. And you also have our mission, which is to make sure that you get the perfect positioning for your target market.
Interesting. Okay. Now, let me ask you this because whenever we launch a business, I'm a business owner myself, right? So there is almost like an identity shift that happens, right? Like I'm a business owner before I had this well dialed machine in corporate working for me and all of that. But my question to you is considering your background, you're coming from freelance, right? For different different companies, and you also went to Asia. So you do have like a different background. You're more used to challenges, different environments. Was it like so do you think that helped you to launch your business? Like having that exposure to well, those different experiences, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, as a founder, you have to wear all the hats, especially if you are, you're starting as a one-person company or bootstrap. There's no seed or angel investor in the background, right? Not for me, at least. There wasn't any. So my experience as a business journalist took me, well beyond South and Southeast Asia. That was my, home base, and that's where I spent most of my time. But I would, for example, be dropped off in Male, the capital of the Maldives, and you have to set up your own small business office effectively to run the project. And you would be living there for 2 to 3 months. The same thing in Amman, Jordan, 5 months in Amman, Jordan. Same thing in Manila, 6 months. Another project begins, another 3 months in the capital of Brunei. 5 points if you can guess the capital of Brunei. It's quite difficult. No? Okay. Bandar Seri Begawan. So 2 to 3 months in Bandar Seri Begawan. You're there with another team member, typically, as part of these business country reports that we produced. I was basically in the country report industry on and off for 7 to 10 years. And the best way I can communicate this to you and listeners is that's the insert that you would read in The Economist, The Guardian, the News, Newsweek, back when paper was more, profound. But again, before the pandemic, when paper was, the norm for advertorials, and that's what we produced: advertorials interviewing cabinet level ministers of government, the leaders of the leading companies for each one of those economies. So the top bank CEO, the top telecommunications companies CEO, the top water facility CEO, all of those people you'd interview and you put them into a package, and of course you'd sell them advertising, and that advertising money would go to the media and split to yourself. But as a two-person team living in any one of those geographies, we'd have to put together an entire small business office. So what does that mean? We need to do follow-ups with our contacts. We have to go out and buy printers. We have to make sure that we have all the stationery running, usually out of a hotel room or an Airbnb. You'd have to put together your receipts for your business expenses throughout the entire project. You'd have to be your own boss as well as the boss above you to make sure that you're keeping on tabs with follow-ups, with transcripts, with sales pitches that come after maybe doing an interview with the representative that's going to handle the marketing at XYZ company. All of that is handled by two people, then with, of course, some oversight from the headquarters, wherever that would be. So yeah, that gave me a tremendous amount of my own, baptism by fire in situ, on the ground across many different places. I can't tell you how much of a training it is just to be dropped into Maldives and say, okay, set up a business and start finding a way to get into the offices of the most powerful people and companies in the country. And if you don't, well, you're fired. So that's it. So I did that for 6 to 7 years.
Oh, that helps a lot. I'm just thinking about the entrepreneur's journey, right? And I'm thinking about your background. That is just like, that's a walk in the park almost. I know it's a different game, but you already had so much exposure that really,
It is a
really
different game,
helps,
and we can
right?
talk about like the
Mm.
other challenges, but I think that background definitely helps to solve some of the doubt, because if you can find a way to I don't know, source something that you need, all of a sudden you need to get the correct printing paper or the correct I don't know, cable in Amman or in Bandar Seri Begawan. You're gonna be prepared for when it comes time to launch your startup.
Okay. Now I'm curious about another thing right now. Like, you're 6 years in the game, right, in your own business. And
Mhm.
it's kind of a twofold question because I understand that some companies, I'm not saying it's your case specifically, but some of them, when they launch a business, there is almost like an evolution to who you start serving and who you serve now, right? The ICP tends to be more polished. You would end up attracting a certain type of people down the road. I'm not saying that happened with you. So my question is basically, well, who did you start serving, right? The evolution of your avatar. And who do you serve now, Justin?
Yeah, I'll answer both of those questions, and it maybe unsurprisingly starts with who you know. As a journalist that was specializing in South-South reporting, so that's emerging economies, I naturally understood some geographies needed, in fact, they demanded and paid a premium for high-end consultancy type of this really difficult to acquire knowledge with the edge of innovation with SEO and now today GEO. And what did that mean? That mean I went directly for markets like Dubai and South Africa and Kuwait because my experience already being and working in countries like that told me that they pay a premium to import talent. So I know that if I give them the correct offering at the correct price, I'm going to easily get in a sale. And that's how I started my first few clients all came from those typical, geographies, those south-south engagements, I call them. So that was a natural segue to bring in the baseline revenue, which I needed to hire talent, put in a system, build up the hierarchy, the processes. Okay. Now, second part of your question, fast forward, what does it look like now? Yeah, it's obviously evolved. So maybe just sticking to the DNA and what worked well, I'm clearly, coming from this career in journalism where I thought borderlessly, and I still think borderlessly. So I don't restrict myself to a geography. I don't think you guys do either, and that's great. That's the world we live in, and that's worked really well for us. So now we span out and we work with companies in Singapore. In fact, our recent client is a gigantic one, much larger than the startups we were working with in the first year. Now we are happy to be the preferred provider for fintech and financial service SEO content marketing for Standard Chartered Ventures. That's the VC arm of Standard Chartered Bank. And through them, we are helping new startups to understand the evolving world of GEO, which is, of course, generative engine optimization, AI search. But the truth is AI search even touches the top of traditional search if you look at the top of Google. So it's everywhere now. So that's the edge of innovation that we're helping large industry players like that, from Singapore to uh, medium-sized enterprises in South Africa and in Berlin, or fintech startups or small medium-sized enterprises in New York or in Texas. So the ICP, again, staying in its foundation, still borderless. But what we really focus in on now is typically we're looking for companies that have already a baseline. And this is the big difference from the first year where I got burned. I
Mhm.
worked with a company way too small and they didn't pay. All right. Luckily, that's a first year mistake and it never happened again, um, because I learned from that mistake, right? So, the real clue there was the writing was on the wall. Someone who's producing a fintech product that's a one stop shop, no nuance. So we can do everything with this financial product. We can be a marketplace. We can do B2B. We can do B2C, and we only have 2 or 3 people on payroll. Okay, too small, not a refined product. I now obviously avoid anything that is that level of beta or alpha. If the product's not ready, then you're not ready for us. Typically, what we're going to look for is a financial service company or a B2B company that already has been in the market for a few years. They have proven revenue. They even have a marketing team that's going to be able to understand the level and the advanced system that I want to provide, because we're taking standard SEO or geo rules and we're innovating on top of those layers, sometimes month by month, sometimes quarter by quarter, because that's the nature of the influence of AI in our industry now. It's changing that rapidly. So if there's not that baseline of a pretty, good professional, well-oiled marketing team and proven revenue stream, then it's a bit of a it's no longer our ICP. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, a couple notes, right? You're mentioning getting burned. I'm always thinking about this. Like when you're a business owner, it's not an if, it's a when, right?
Yeah,
Eventually, this happens. But I love the fact that you're trying to mitigate that risk, right? Because at the end of the day, you can work with what you can control. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna try to make it different right here. I'm gonna change the ICP here. Trying to work with more, companies that have at least a baseline. So I get it where you're coming from. Now, I would love to do a game of pretend here, real quick. Okay. Let's pretend, Justin, I am one of those fintech companies, B2B. Let's say, and I know you're not respecting borders, right? Let's say I'm in Brazil. I am your avatar. Okay. I'm your guy.
hi
Um,
Pedro. Good.
First of all, how would I be able to find you, Justin? Mint position, marketing wise.
How will you be able to find me? Yeah, that is exactly what has been working for us the past few months, and that's what we service. So we're doubling down on organic search visibility, AI search visibility, and through the various streams and signals that AI is using in order to surface our brand on AI tools. At the beginning, it was a lot of LinkedIn outreach, and then sometimes we'd get word of mouth or referrals. But the past year, it's all been AI referrals, and that's exactly what we're offering. We're offering GEO, a way to optimize to make sure your brand is surfaced when someone's asking specifically about, I want to find someone that does exactly what Pedro does, or vice versa, right? So that's something that is going to be our next marching order, the next the next half of this year is doubling down on content that works within our frame to increase our percentage or probability of being mentioned on AI search tools. Again, our past clients, the past few months, Gemini recommendation, Claude recommendation. Someone saw a Reddit post where we were mentioned because I kindly asked one of our clients to make a post about us on one of these threads, and they came to us. So all of those signals that we are actively doing for our clients, working to improve our clients' visibility on, is what we're working on our own brand for. So,
Okay. So, still in the game of pretend, okay? Let's say Gemini recommended you,
mhm.
or, a Chat GPT, Claude, whatever that looks like, or even you guys did some outreach through LinkedIn, or I was even referred to you, right? I was like, hey, you gotta talk with Justin and Mint Position. So, I do the reach out. I'm like, hey, sounds like you guys can help me. And we can speed up the sales process a little bit. We can assume there is alignment. You guys know you can help me. I know you guys can help me. Or if you want to add a note there, totally fine too. But my question to you is like, could you walk me through a little peek behind curtain, right? Of how does it look like to work with you guys, and the outcomes I can expect?
Yeah, sure. So someone comes into our fold, they contact us, they drop an email or they schedule a call. I'm going to do my best to assess their knowledge of what we do, SEO, GEO. It's one of the first questions I ask. On a scale of 0 to 10, how well do you understand SEO and GEO today? Depending on that answer, I'm going to be able to say, okay, you understand nothing. By the way, I'm going to recommend that I walk you through about 20 slides. Is that okay with you? Because if you don't understand the in-depth of what has changed in the past year, then I don't know if you're going to be first a good fit or really understand what it is we're selling. B, you understand it very well. You say 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, listen, Senor Pedro, Mr. Prospect, I think you understand well. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to step on one or two or three or five of these slides. You can stop me if you want. But really what I want to, make a case of is the fact of where we are now. So I'm going to make a case for what's changed in the past 18 months. 18 months ago, your whole brand was dependent on your website, your domain, right? Your domain is how you communicate. Your domain is the end of your funnel. Even if you are making a post on social media or traditional media through a press release, etc. Where's the link go? It goes back to your domain. People will try to search you organically, then they find you through paid or organic channels. They go to your site, then they eventually click. All three of those steps, you're controlling them. Today looks nothing like that, right, Pedro? So at the top of the funnel, the brand discovery is often occurring on an AI tool. The AI tool is synthesizing what it thinks it understands about your entity. That could be your personal entity as a coach, as a person, or your brand entity as your company. It's going to describe and communicate you through dozens of signals across the internet to our best understanding on average, because every LLM is different, right? 50% of those signals come from your domain. Now imagine that. That's half of what it was 18 months ago. What about the rest? About 30% are coming from media. So that's external media, could be Forbes, press releases, other local media talking about you. It means that we're living in a renewed time where a renewed importance for digital PR. Whereas PR was really important before for, maybe announcing a new product or a strategy, or we're partnering with this association or company. Now it's a baseline for AI to recognize that you're important enough when it's comparing you vis-a-vis other competitors. Next, about 20% more or less, that depends on the LM again, is from social or community channels. That's Reddit, LinkedIn, and also YouTube, which is why these types of podcasts and the transcripts that AI is reading off of them on YouTube is going to become even more important in the age of AI for increasing your brand mention probability, because that's really what AI is. It's a probability machine, because every day, every time you type in a prompt to any of those tools, it would be slightly different. So we're measuring really the probability of you occurring next to your competitors. All of this together actually is baked together in a new framework that I've put together, which is called consensus optimization. Simply put, we as an optimization and a content marketing agency have to influence AI's consensus of your brand or entity. And we do that by publishing and steering the narrative of your brand across all of these signals: your domain, media, industry blogs, LinkedIn, YouTube, Reddit, etc. Right? all of those signals are important in different ways, but they make up this kind of diet, digital diet that AI is eating. And in order to become a healthy, visible company online, you can't skip out on carbs, or you cannot skip out on your veggies. You have to have a balanced mix to communicate across all of those different platforms and channels who you are and in the correct way. So that's what we do. We're going to assess, we're going to see what's broken through a geo audit. That's typically become my go-to first step, because it's the intelligence layer that sets up everything else, and it prevents guesswork, because we are going to have data, domains, URLs, content formats, content types, exactly a prescriptive roadmap that tells us exactly where we need to fill in content to close the visibility gap for your brand. I like to say that as an entrepreneur, I don't really have a boss anymore, except for one, and that's data. Data is my boss. And as a former journalist, that's like a really big journey to have gone on. Go back 10 years ago, and my like what we were producing was almost archaic compared to today. It very much was. So you'd make a publication, say, okay, we've published your advertorial in The Economist, The Guardian, etc., and it was distributed 60,000 times, and here's a copy of the newspaper, and I'm going to mail it to your inbox at your office. And that was the story. Every touch point now is flooded with data, from the inception before we even touch your brand to, of course, the end where we are able to understand and communicate the actual conversion paths. So exactly where do they click on the site first, which URLs on your site are being used for the most amount of signups or leads, or however you measure it, and what's working and what's not. Everything's flooded with data. That's really my number one boss now, and that's how the project starts. So I think that's really where our forte is led by the data, and really focusing on the geo audit now to anyone like you, Senor Pedro, who's come in from the internet to discover us and discover what we do.
I love the fact that I became a Senor Pedro. Okay, appreciate that. The respect, the authority I just got from you. Now, I'm curious about one thing, man. I'm curious about someone who's almost like a 0 in your assessment, right? You ask them 0 to 10. Because I want to help the little guy, the small guy who potentially is listening to us. So what would you say is the main misconception you pick up on those calls from people? Like, they don't understand, your point of view and how AI works with the marketing and all of that. Like, what would you say is the main one that people think it is, but really is not that?
Yeah. First of all, the biggest misconception is people conflate the new consensus optimization approach that I'm giving, which is the signals that include traditional PR, press releases. They conflate that with a PR agency. So they come to me, okay, Justin, you're a former journalist, so you must have contacts in CNN. Actually, can we go directly there and just publish something there? Oh, you've missed the point entirely. It's this much broader spectrum of communicating across the internet, and there's a framework here, and that's also not how it works. And of course, the geo audit most likely is not even going to come up as identifying CNN as a relevant domain for your specific niche industry. I have not seen it yet after doing maybe 20 geo audits in the past year. So that's because of every industry having its own real specific niche in this super brand fragmented world that we live in. The other big misconception is that you can maybe just work on one but not the other. So some companies say, okay, well, I like the fact that you employ what I call journalistic SEO, which is this approach that, especially with finance and financial technology companies, it stems from the fact that Google's own standards and filters through what they call your money, your life, require that you meet their EAT standards. That's expertise, authority, and trustworthiness, right? Which means that we have to act like a journalist. We are interviewing subject matter experts on the topic whether they're in your company or external experts from outside of your scope. And we have, over the past 6 years, groomed the catalog of experts from across the world in the financial space, from, you know, whether it's payments, digital payments, accounting, API infrastructure, etc., or beyond, right? We go to them, we tap them, we make sure that it's meeting that criteria of offering a relevant authoritative source, so that A, doesn't feel like bias, and B, it meets Google's own scrutiny, which is basically Google's way of saying, okay, you're writing about something that can potentially have great impact on someone's financial health. We're going to make sure that we're going to put only really the highest quality content in front of someone's eyes, if it's especially about investing or retirement planning or et cetera, right? So that's where we really lean in with that aspect. Some people really are tuned into that and they say, well, I just want to do that. Let's do it. But today, again, if we build that to a great degree on your domain, there's another 50% of the puzzle that AI is already constantly eating at on its diet of daily content, using to write its answers. And if we don't influence that part of AI's scope of the internet, then we've missed out on it. So then, of course, the other part, which is the other group of people, is sometimes to say, okay, well, I get that, and you're doing great interviews, and you're using journalistic SEO, which is important for, again, understanding how to assess and ascertaining and groom good, a good, like a journalist does, a good source list, right, over time, and then approach them and put them into the right articles. And then, of course, you're doing what else a journalist does, which is qualifying data, qualifying that their answers are good, making sure that they're not sending us AI answers. We tell our interviewees, do not send AI answers. We're going to check for them. The most important thing I can tell you as an interviewee for our content is give us a lived experience. That's something that AI, as it's going, it's being like increasingly used. AI is really great at regurgitating knowledge that exists on the internet, but really bad, and perhaps infinitely will never be able to repeat what we're doing right now, Pedro, is a lived experience. Understanding what the person in the room is thinking, whether that's the boardroom or speaking with a client or listening to a testimonial. That lived experience, that human nuance, is something that can only come from these types of interviews, and something that is baked into journalistic SEO. It's baked into what makes great content succeed on both Google and via Google, the AI platforms that bounce signals off of it or that are building their own content metrics. So that's great. So that's what we're doing on that side. The other side is, okay, let's just go directly for the press releases or the guest posts. Yes, great. But without the content on your own domain, here's what AI is doing. Someone's writing in a prompt. We're able to maybe get you mentioned on the prompt because we're getting you mentioned on a list in an industry blog or a media outlet, right? Or a Reddit post. You're being mentioned. It's verifying that you're an authority and you're mentioned, and it's not an unbiased listicle because maybe there's other, competitors listed there. Then it's going back to your domain, and it's going there to verify if all the information written on those other sites are going to be confirmed by what exists on your domain. And if you don't have that content there, chain breaks and you are not going to be mentioned. Both of them have to holistically come together. Otherwise, your visibility in the world as we know it today is broken.
Interesting. Appreciate the insights. Now, I would love for us to shift gears for a second,
Please do. Yeah.
because looking forward a bit, what's the direction you're aiming this business towards? Are you thinking more right now about growth, leverage, building a team, refining what already works? I mean, what feels most exciting right now for you, Justin?
All of those things are exciting, but as an experienced founder, there's a priority list. So my priority list of those would be finding a way to increase our own visibility. If we're selling apples, we better be, having a good orchard, right? So we have to also consume what we're selling. So what I really want to do is produce more and more of our own content. So in the next few months, we're going to be producing a series of what CMOs are changing as they adapt to marketing in the age of AI. And we're interviewing CEOs and CMOs across the U.S. to produce what I hope will be a in-depth white paper to launch 2027. Already thinking ahead with 5 to 10 really great interviews from CMOs and CEOs across the space. That, of course, is really baked into what we already do. So going out, journalistic interviews, journalistic quality research in order to increase their own optimization. Okay, great. Now, next, what we are luckily able to do because we've built now a company that has reached $30,000 in revenue monthly. We have 11 clients under management, and we're going to be increasing that ideal now 11. It's probably 12 or 13. So it's even I can't even it's a bit ahead of me. So depending on how you count the contracts. So what I would ideally want is by the end of the year, if we can increase that to 15 or 16, that is a safe growth pace. What I mean by safe means that we don't inundate our own team, we don't stress our own processes, we don't get ahead of ourselves as we're trying to build out the correct amount of the source list that I really have been driving in the whole process to make sure that the case studies are coming out. All that comes in, and then of course we hire. We also reward the people that have been working with me the longest. I've worked with writers for 6 years since the inception. I've worked with clients for 6 years. I've worked with a few clients since our inception, and that is a story in itself because it shows that when a client and meshes really well with our system, they stay for the long term, and we effectively become this kind of fractional team that is we get delegated and we get well, as the word agency tells, we are given full agency of this specific task of marketing, and with as time goes on, with more confidence from the CEO of our clients, the CEO of the companies we work for. So that would be the marching order: is increase our own marketing budget, produce more press releases, produce a white paper to go into 2027 with, produce a series of expert interviews, not unlike what you're doing now, where we're going really in depth to hear out what people are really doing on the marketing front as they adapt to the use of AI, and then build out the team beyond that, and then look into the horizon. But definitely, what my experience abroad has taught me is to not be overzealous, and that's perhaps my time living in Europe or working with many Europeans. But unlike I'm a New Yorker, born and bred in New York. I was gung ho for those first 21 years of my life, but then I appreciate slow, steady growth over incredible, rapid. Let's bring on 10 clients right away. That's for me is not sustainable, and it's not going to be pretty if we cannot correctly service the account and produce a stable pipeline of content that's then measurable, and then we can feature as a press release or a case study on our site.
Okay. I'm not sure if you remember, but at the beginning of the episode, I mentioned I'm a comic book nerd myself. So I love sci-fi too. Okay. And I would love for us to step in
Are you
into a
saying
little
that
bit.
because you see the Dune on my shelf, or what?
Oh, no. That's a me thing. Okay. I got it. Okay. I love Dune, by the way. But I want to add here a time machine in front of us because you mentioned stories. I know you're a journalist. So you're potentially story driven. Okay. So let's pretend we have a time machine and we're going to have two stops. Okay, Justin. First stop, you can go back in time when you opened shop, right? 6 years ago, mint position, you started a business, and you can give yourself one piece of business advice you wish you knew back then that you know now. What would that be?
It probably would be there's two parts. One's actually just corporate, maybe just to incorporate my company faster. It's something that I didn't know. I wasn't even sure about where I would incorporate, what I would do. All of this was completely new to me, because while being the vagabond journalist, being parachuted into various geographies helped me to understand how to, hit the ground running, so to speak. It didn't teach me some of those skills, which is simple things like, okay, I should incorporate faster, set up my own, set up, payroll faster, these types of things. And then also HR. In the first years when you're looking for specific skill sets. So really, I mean, no one's going to have the skill set I want, which is you have to be a journalist and a content marketer and also understand digital marketing. You're going to have to learn one of those fields when you come into into our training program, and that's fine. But I didn't understand how to vet people. HRs, and you've probably heard this, is one of the most difficult things of any corporate department, because humans are fickle creatures. The psychology of dealing with maybe a no, or thanks for your submission, but no thank you. If you don't write that email template correctly, then you're gonna get some fire back. And I maybe didn't understand the correct nuances of saying thank you for applying, but I liked your samples. But after you wrote to me, your email was clearly written by someone who has subpar English, and you're not a native speaker. And I don't know how your samples look so good, but clearly you can't write English that well. I didn't say that specifically, but to that degree, HR is much more difficult than analytics.
Okay, love the story, man. Our second stop is you're going back in time, and you can you can pinpoint a time and select a moment in time between those 6 years. Okay, and maybe you have more than one, but I want the top of mind. A moment for you that you felt
Mhm.
so fulfilled, right, in the journey, that
Mhm.
you always almost like told yourself, "Oh, that's why I started this." You know what
Mhm.
I mean? You have
Yeah,
one of those?
absolutely. Maybe it was 3 or even 4 years in. So yeah, 2 or 3 years ago. Um, and it didn't happen at once, but it was a cascading effect. Um, Effectively, what I'm doing is, yes, we're providing content marketing services for optimization purposes. But in the process of doing that, what it says even clearly on the pricing page on our website is I'm also a consultant. So I'm educating the clients in exactly why we're doing this, what's changing in the market, how this is going to impact your organic channel for growing your business. And you know, after 3 years, I started to get feedback like, "Hey, you're the reason why I've decided that I want to specialize in SEO," from a marketing executive. Or, "Hey, you're the whole, I've decided now that actually I'm going to go back to school, and I want to become like a digital marketer," from an intern. Or um, you're my favorite part of my week is speaking with you. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's a signal that I'm a great person or that she has a difficult team. So you can read that how you like. But the feedback that I get as being a consultant, and the education that, to hear again clients say like, "You've taught me so much over the past 3, 4, 5, 6 years that, you know, yeah, we've done our work. We've seen the numbers and the company's grown, but you've also made me a better marketer and a better professional just by having the opportunity to work with you." That's rewarding. That's one. Then the next thing is, as you grow and you go from like, okay, one or two clients and I'm doing it all myself. I'm the writer, I'm the editor, I'm the HR, I'm the accountant, and then the team grows out, and then you see the team grow out, and then you see the team get promoted, and then you see the team increase their rates, and then you see the team move to a better, they say they're going to move to a better apartment. You see the own growth of this institution that you've created, that's not just helping the clients but also your team. They're growing with you. That's something that no one told me about, but that's it. Obviously, I think now in retrospect, one of the most rewarding aspects of being a founder is watching your team grow with you.
Awesome. Okay. Now, Justin, before we close this out, if someone resonated with what you share and wants to follow your work, and we're going to have all the links in the description, okay?
Sure.
But where should they go? Best place to go.
Best place to go is mintposition.co. That's our our agency's website. And then if you want to read more in depth about the strategies that we're working on and that we're building, as the world of AI increasingly, changes how brands are found online, then you can just go to the blog, mintposition.co/blog, and you can subscribe to our newsletter, which you'll find right on that page.
Okay. I almost for a second thought you're going to tell me, yeah, you should go to Claude, right? No, I'm just kidding. Now, there were a few moments from this chat that really stood out to me, stayed with me. Okay. I want to highlight them real quick. Well, coming from a background, when we were talking about your origin story, right? You're a journalist. You had a journalism degree and all of that. So very interesting to have you on. Then you launched your business 2 months before COVID broke out, right? Which is also something very interesting to see how you navigated through that. And then we were talking about the business side, and you're telling me you have to wear all the hats, right? And I see a lot of people coming from a corporate background, right? You mentioned consulting. I worked at a consulting firm here in Brazil, also Ernst & Young. And then the corporate background, here's the kicker, right? That's the difference that I see in you, is like you have that go-getter journalist thing going on for you. You had to go to there and get a printer, and you need to open doors. You have to find a way, right? Mm-hmm. To open the doors and talk to a CEO, and then doing marketing and selling. It's like, it's pretty interesting to compare, because whenever I'm thinking about wearing too many hats, I see a lot of people struggling, right? Because they're coming from corporate backgrounds and they're like working with this well-dialed machine that they don't even realize what leads are. They don't even understand, like, okay, I have to sell, because it's just work that is piling up on their desk, and they're drowning in work, right? They don't even fathom what do you have to come up with to build an actual business. I think that's a very strong point you have coming from your background. Okay, so that really stood out to me. And I would say last but not least is the way you explain the signals and AI. I think that's a very hot topic. Specifically, I would say it's how the domains validate the mention in the socials, right? And how that could break the chain, which comes back to the example of that client that you told me, oh, so you have contacts on X, Y, and Z company. And you're like, no, you're not getting it. We need to do a full circle thing here so we can leave trails for AI. Okay. Now,
you got it. Yeah.
This was just my long way of saying that I really appreciate you taking the time and being open with this, Justin. Great having you on today.
Thank you, Senor Pedro. It's been my pleasure. And I look forward to seeing what you guys do more and more on this show.
That's it for this episode. This episode, as well as this podcast, was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help business owners elevate their business to 6, 7, and 8-figure years, all without burning out. If you're looking to grow your business, as well as get the time freedom that you are looking for, visit us at joinpurplecircle.com and see what we can do to help you and your business.